What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about the SMSL D10, a new dongle DAC coming in at $69.99. My review unit was sent out to me by Shenzhen Audio. As always, no money has changed hands, and my thoughts and opinions are my own. As far as what comes in the box, there's actually not a whole lot. It's just the D10 itself, a short USB-C to USB-C cable, and a quality control pass chip. I actually really like the design of the D10. It has an all-metal build with glass windows offering top and bottom views of the PCB. There is an LED indicator light on the PCB which changes color according to the sample rate of the music you're playing. There are also physical volume controls on the side of the device. Unlike a lot of other dongle DACs nowadays, the D10 does not allow you to switch between onboard digital filters. Let's talk about power consumption and output now. As is the case for all of my dongle DAC reviews, I play a negative 10 dBV test tone at 1 kHz through the Moondrop S8 into my clone 711 coupler and increase the volume until the SPL meter in Room EQ Wizard shows a level of 94 decibels. At the same time, I'm measuring the power consumption through my Wittern U2 USB power meter. I'm also keeping track of what volume setting in Windows I had to set to achieve that volume level. Let's pull up the table now. The D10 only has one gain setting, which makes this review a little bit easier for me. It's definitely one of the most powerful devices I've evaluated, at least with the transducers that I'm using it to power. However, power consumption is really high. I actually haven't seen a power consumption measurement this high in a while. There are devices coming onto the market these days with dramatically lower power consumption results, which makes this a little disappointing for me. The D10 gets warmer to the touch than I would have expected, especially if you keep it inside of a pocket or underneath another surface. Let's talk about my sound impressions next. I compare all dongle DACs to my reference DAC, the Colorfly CDA M2. The M2 is double the price of the D10, but I find that comparing more inexpensive options to the M2 gives me a pretty good idea of where the more inexpensive options fall short. This is a cited comparison, and I am switching back and forth between the two devices, so there is a delay of a second or two in between output toggling. I am personally of the opinion that when comparing two competently designed source devices, the differences between the two are not going to be apparent unless you control as many variables as possible. Right off the bat, the D10 is a warmer sounding source than the M2. There's more low-end heft, particularly in the sub-bass, but it's less controlled. I find that the overall impression is that the D10 has a more blunt sounding bass attack. I didn't hear a whole lot of difference between the D10 and the M2 in the mid-range. If anything, male vocals seem to be a little bit more detailed on the M2, but this might be because the M2 is just a more detailed sounding and resolving dongle DAC overall. The M2 just has a lot more detail and definition in the treble region, as well as better instrument separation. One thing I also wanted to mention is that with certain very sensitive IEMs, I actually could hear the noise floor of the D10, which I was very surprised by. It's been a long time since I've listened to any dongle DAC where there's been any sort of self-noise, so I was kind of surprised by this. Overall, I expected more out of SMSL's first attempt at a dongle DAC. They obviously have a lot of experience putting desktop components together, and I really thought they were going to knock this one out of the park. I don't think that there's any real reason to pick this up, because unless we're talking about pure power output, I think the D10 is outclassed by many of its peers at this price point. If you've made it this far, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Until next time, this is Bedrock Reviews, signing off.